When we talk about great open worlds, it's often the large ones that get the most attention just because of the accomplishment of the scale. However, it's not always the biggest ones that are the best. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, the top 10 small open world games, part 2. For reference, if you're interested in part 1, we did Dying Light, Dead Rising, Bully, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, Mafia 2, The Outer Worlds, Shenmue, the Yakuza series, and Batman Arkham City. It's a good video, I would recommend going back to it. But now you know why those aren't in this video. Let's get going. Starting off at number 10, the Talos one from Prey. It's a great one to start with because at first it doesn't really even seem like Prey is an open world game at all. If you've played other immersive sims before, you're probably expecting a linear sequence of levels similar to something like Arcane's previous games like Dishonored or games that inspired Prey like System Shock 2, but after you get through the first major area, the whole station really starts to open up. What's so cool about it is that the station map is accurate, and if you actually combined all the different parts of Talos 1, it would mostly make sense. The bridge is at the top, just like it shows on the map, while the docking bay is near the bottom. You can see everything wherever you go on the exterior of the station too. In reality, Talos 1 is basically one huge immersive sim map that's split into different sections by loading screens. It's like if an entire game was set on a single Hitman map, because the amount of work they had to put in to make everything line up and make sense while still making an entertaining game is really impressive. The best small open worlds aren't simply measured in how few square miles they take up, but how dense and lived in the world actually feels. Few of them out there feel as detailed and complete as the one in Prey. At number 9 is Hong Kong from Sleeping Dogs. Compared to Prey, the open world of Sleeping Dogs is actually huge. But compared to a lot of other open world action games, it's actually pretty small and very dense. Sometimes that can be a little disappointing, but with Sleeping Dogs, it works absolutely perfectly. Hong Kong is super dense, very lively, and filled with detail, and while it doesn't cover a huge area like something like Grand Theft Auto 5, it still manages to create a really compelling version of the city, while only being a fraction of its actual size. It does help that there's less of an emphasis on driving and gunplay in this game than other open world games that, trend towards crime. Most of the fighting is actually hand-to-hand, and half the time you're chasing someone on foot rather than doing anything in a vehicle. What stands out to me compared to other open-world crime games is that the interiors are, insane, and the on-foot sections, like the night market, are really cool. It's just a really cool place to explore on foot, and the kind of detail you really just don't see in a game that's aiming to give an open world. In reality, the city of Hong Kong is ridiculous in size, so the Sleeping Dogs version isn't exactly accurate, but the smaller size makes getting around easier, and also makes it so that they can get the feel of Hong Kong perhaps a little bit better, while giving us a more fun game overall. At number 8 is Prague and Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Mankind Divided is pretty unique among the Deus Ex games because instead of having several small hub areas you can explore as you go through the story, the game's only got one, Prague. And that seems a little limiting, but the developers made the most of it and turned the city into one of the best, but also smallest open world locations ever. It's a place that's incredibly dense with detail, and it just looks so cool with this mix of old European architecture next to hyper-modern structures and art displays. Ask anybody about this game, they'll probably tell you the hub world's probably the best part about the game. The main story's kind of short and ends on what I would call a disappointing cliffhanger, but the time you spend in Prague is just fantastic. A lot of the game's best moments are found in the side quests in this area, and it seems like, yeah, that's kind of damning the game with faint praise, but seriously, some of these side quests are genuinely phenomenal. The serial killer side quest is especially good and plays out slowly over the course of the entire game, and it's exclusive to the open world. Prague is just a really interesting and dense place to explore in this game, and it's amazing to look at even now. The actual open world is only a few city blocks, but it's one of the best open worlds out there. At number 7, The Island from The Witness. This one's a little different, a puzzle game rather than an action one, but the bones of an open world are there. After getting through what amounts to a tutorial, you pretty much get free reign to explore on the island and go wherever you want. There's nothing stopping you from attempting endgame puzzles right from the start if you want to, but if it's your first time playing, you basically have to explore the easier areas first to understand how to solve some of the later brain teasers. That's kind of what's so brilliant about The Witness. Once you get past that initial part, there's really no tutorials or locks on anything. If you want to progress, you basically have to learn about the various rules of the game and apply them as you go. It's a structure that allows for a lot of eureka moments where your brain suddenly puts all the pieces together and you feel like a damn genius. In comparison to a lot of open world games though, the island's actually pretty small. It takes only a minute or two to run from one side to the other, but compared to a lot of puzzle games, it's gigantic. It's just a cool place to explore as well. The visuals are kind of basic, but they're really done well, so each area has a unique identity that makes it pretty satisfying to explore. If The Witness was just a linear collection of line puzzles, it wouldn't be nearly as good. It's the island that really pulls everything together. At number 6 is London from Assassin's Creed Syndicate. As the maps in Assassin's Creed series just keep getting bigger and bigger, it's easy to forget that sometimes less is more, and that's definitely the case with Syndicate. Compared to the sprawling epics that most of the other games have in the series, Syndicate is way more humble in its ambitions. Instead of taking place in multiple cities or even an entire country, the entire open world of this game takes place in central London. It's a city that's been done to death in open world games too, but the Industrial Revolution setting does a lot to make the city feel distinct. Another huge positive is all the interior locations you can explore during the game's more Hitman-style assassination missions. They were introduced in Unity, but basically everything about Syndicate that was introduced in Unity, way less janky here. It's just a solid game all around. The grappling hook feels like they put it in because the Batman games were popular, but it makes getting around a lot easier, and the vehicles are really fun to play around with. But probably most importantly, the actual stealth seems like, to me, probably the best in the series. In comparison to a lot of other Assassin's Creed games, it's pretty modest in size, but it's much more focused, and in our opinion here, honestly, a lot more fun because of it. And number 5 is Faranga from Risen. Released back in 2009 by Piranha Bytes, the masters of Eurojank RPGs like Gothic and Alex. Yes, a developer that I have both a lot of respect and criticism for. Risen may have been the developer's smallest but best open world, and you'll probably be able to tell exactly why with my criticism of Alex. Risen is set entirely in Faranga, which in terms of an RPG, this place is pretty small, but it makes up with depth. It may not look like a lot now, but in 2019, this was an absolute joy to explore. Everything feels handmade and interesting, and there's a real rush to explore places that you haven't been, just because you want to see it. It is a tough one. When you start out, even the most pathetic and basic enemies can kill you, and it doesn't get a lot easier from there. Compared to Gothic, the difficulty's a little more reasonable, but it's a tough and unforgiving game, especially for this time. Oddly enough, Demon Souls came out 4 days later in North America, so I guess that's what 2009 was all about. You actually have access to most of the island right from the start. It's just that if you go in the wrong direction, you're probably going to get clobbered pretty hard by high-level monsters blocking your way. And also, combat's... It's a Piranha Bytes game. It's a little awkward, and the translation isn't the best, but the world design's amazing. Just a fun game to explore, and the difficulty makes it even more satisfying when you manage to explore some new and different place and survive. The later games in the series aren't as well regarded, but the first game really holds up as long as you got a high tolerance for pain. And number 4 is Hexaville from Gravity Rush, probably the strangest open world game on the list, originally developed for the PlayStation Vita and quickly gathered a cult following. Sony was like, "Ooh, gotta go to PS4 because it would be good if more than a dozen people bought and played it." Joking aside, it's kind of a weird game. You play as Kat, a girl with the ability to control gravity, which you can use to basically fly by shifting gravity for yourself so that you're always falling sideways. It's a really unique gimmick, and it works well in the city it takes place in, Hexaville. It's one of the most unique locations in gaming, a city attached to a massive pillar in the middle of an endless void. There's only 4 relatively small districts here, so the surface area is not huge, but there's tons of nooks and crannies to explore. You're not just flying all over the city either. A lot of the time you're flying under it as well, and there's some pretty surreal stuff down there. When you're flying around struts and supports that keep this place from literally collapsing into an endless abyss. It's just a really unusual location and one of our favorite open world cities. And number 3 is Numerise from Infamous 2. All 3 of these games have relatively small cities, but Numerise is probably the smallest and probably the best. It's basically a fictional New Orleans, and it's built for maximum depth in a relatively small area. Compared to a lot of open world games, it's tiny, but for an Infamous game, perfect. They managed to squeeze everything you would expect from New Orleans. There's a Bourbon Street area, Old Spanish Fort, flooded section, a huge port area, to name a few places. It's incredibly dense while managing not to feel like an amusement park, which is incredible. Looking at this map, it's got to be one of the smallest open world games of all time. It's not very big at all. 2 islands split into 4 sort of districts. Like, in truth, it could be an open world Tony Hawk game. But a big part of that is just the developers really leaning into what works in an Infamous game. These games are fast, fun, and very dense, and at least until Second Son, you don't really get any super fast movement powers, so making the map relatively small makes sense. Maybe some people prefer Seattle from Second Son or Empire Bay from 1, but to me, it's just the best open world in the series. And number 2 is Hyrule and Low Rule from Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds. This is an interesting game because it really looks like your standard top-down Legend of Zelda game, but it's got a large amount of open world DNA in it as well. Unlike Breath of the Wild though, which is massive, the world's pretty compact. Billed as a sequel to the legendary Link to the Past, what makes this game unique among Legend of Zelda games is that you can tackle the dungeons in pretty much any order. It's a true open world, one that you can explore as you see fit. That's because instead of earning equipment that gets you access to dungeons like a regular Zelda game, you can just buy or rent equipment from the store whenever you want. It's a small thing that makes a really big difference and opens up the game world in a pretty unprecedented way for the series. You might think it throws everything off, but actually against all odds, it's a fantastic game, probably one of the best in the series. It's all around incredibly fun, it's easy to get into, and it's really refreshing for the whole series. Just like Breath of the Wild, but in a completely different way. And finally, you knew this had to be coming. Manhattan from Marvel's Spider-Man. In real life, the island of Manhattan is not very big. It's about 22.8 square miles. And in Marvel's Spider-Man, it has shrunk to a fraction of that size. Still, it remains one of the most realistic and well-realized open world games out there. Few games actually manage to capture a city as well as this one does. It's a small detail, but one of the things I really appreciate about this game is how realistic the traffic is. Like, most open world games have to cheat and keep the roads open to make it easier to get around so the game doesn't have to draw a lot of vehicles or just generally be in your way as you're in a vehicle. But this game is just like, you know what? You're Spider-Man. Traffic can suck in this New York, and it does. From either street level or swinging around, it all looks amazing too. Interiors, still, probably among the most top-notch of any game out there that's an open world. It's all just like a major graphical showcase. Interestingly enough, compared to the many other Spider-Man game versions of Manhattan, it's probably one of the biggest, but it's actually relatively small compared to most open world cities. When you can't fly and you're not driving, it only makes sense to condense a world a little bit, so you're not spending too much time going from one place to another. I mean, it's Spider-Man. It's one of the few open world superhero games that can actually contend with the Batman Arkham games. And while the city is definitely bigger than the one from Arkham City, it's pretty small in the grand scheme. When it comes to superheroes though, unless you're Superman, smaller's probably better, and it doesn't get much better than Spider-Man's New York. It's so fun to swing around in, and it just looks amazing. Like, what is there left to say about it? And that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click the subscribe button and don't forget to click the notification bell. As always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.